What's going on? Welcome to All Elite Weekly, the first fan podcast, or any podcast for that matter, devoted solely to the new wrestling promotion, All Elite Wrestling. Que pasa, guys? It is our 7th episode. Siete, lucky number 7. This is obviously going to be the best one. It has to be for that, if for no other reason than that. It's for my terrible pronunciation of siete. As I sit and record this, it's February 22nd, Friday. Luckily, the sun is out here in Riverside, California, but it is fucking freezing for February. I'm trying to truck through this this peach mango bang, and get the day going here. Haven't got a workout in yet. We're gonna get that in after this. It should be a shorter episode I got for you guys here today. Got a few matches to go over. Don't really have much news. But I will leave you with an all elite way back. If you're listening to this, I just want to say thank you. If you've listened to one or two of these episodes, I know it's particularly right now. We've only been on YouTube. Once I get this job situation secured, I'll fund the money that I have back into this, and we'll get out there on multiple platforms again. If you are listening to this, ayúdame. I need help. I'm still using this All Elite Weekly logo that is basically just the All Elite Wrestling logo, and I don't really know how far I can take that, particularly once I get back on all those other platforms. Right now I'm kind of riding underneath the line, but I don't know how long that's going to happen. So if you are a graphic designer, or if you know anyone who's a graphic designer, or if you just like to fuck around with that kind of stuff, do me a huge favor. Send me over a design at All Elite Weekly on Instagram. I think I'm also at wrestlingwithwrestlingshit@gmail.com. Help your boy out, not get sued. Eventually, I'd like to do, something. If this grows, I'd like to put it at least on stickers. Something I can put on a sticker without getting sued by Cody and the Bucks. So help your boy out. Without much further ado, let's get to it, man. Let's start off with this week's matches. The All Elite Weekly matches for the week of February 15th, or the 13th through February 22nd. Last Friday, February 15th, Queens, New York. It was ICW's Party and Bullshit. I told you this was going to be happening last week. They kicked it off with what I predicted. The pay-per-view starts, and Party and Bullshit by Biggie Smalls is playing. I hope Brooklyn was going wild for that. I know I was over here on the West Coast. I caught it on independentwrestling.tv. You can, if you head over there to independentwrestling.tv, you can get a 20-day free trial just for signing up. So after as the Biggie's playing, we come to find out right off the bat, Joey Janela's on commentary. Joey Janela's popping up all over the place on these indie scenes, on the commentary table. I think we talked about him being at Come Hell or High Water. GCW obviously is his home, so he's known to pop up there. But also out here on the East Coast, ICW, I thought that was pretty cool to have the bad boy himself on the commentary team. All Elites representing in a lot of different facets all over the country right now. In the first match that we had advertised that I told you about that was going to be happening, Maria Manic was taking on our AEW's own Penelope Ford. They used to actually be a tag team. I don't know if it was strictly in ICW or all over in the indie scene, but Maria Manic comes out. She's kind of got like a G.I. Jane look going on. It's kind of hot, kind of scary. I don't really know how I feel about Maria Manic yet, but she was over there in ICW. Obviously, that's got to be her stomping grounds. So she comes out. I think to start off the match, as she's like getting ready doing her whole routine, she's getting prepped in the ring. I'm pretty sure she threw her gum, she took her gum out of her mouth and threw it in a fan's mouth. Kind of hot, kind of gross. A lot of mixed feelings regarding Maria Manic at this point still. Penelope Ford comes out looking confident, hits those full splits, that pose in the ring. People are chanting for the bad girl at this point. I'm not really sure what to make of the ICW crowd yet. It's not quite like the GCW crowd. It's kind of in between. It's not one of these tiny ass little rec centers that we've been talking about recently, but it's also not like as hardcore of a following as like a GCW crowd, or it's not like a bloodthirsty crowd. It just kind of seemed like, some drunk wrestlegoers on a Friday night out in New York. Pretty cool scene. They seem ready for it. They do get the ambition chants going. Like I said, Penelope Ford and Maria Manic used to be tag team partners out in ICW. I think they were either Blonde Ambition. So the ambition chants start to get going as the two are facing off. They ring the bell. They start to get going. They run the ropes, obviously. Penelope Ford does one of those, like, where she dodges the clothesline. She does like a full back bend, Matrix style. If Keanu Reeves, was a hot little blonde, a hottie thotty blonde. She does the back bend, the Matrix back bend. Maria Mannix on the top of on the side of the apron. Penelope Ford at one point does like this flying double knee drop to the apron, the hardest part of the ring on Maria Mannix. They got some good bumps going. The pace isn't too off the wall. To be honest, this probably isn't the best Penelope Ford outing that we've seen, particularly recently. I know obviously that barn burner at Hell or High Water was a pretty high bar to set. This one's just a lot of the basics. That aside from that double knee off the top, to end it as we start to wind down the match, she hits that springboard diamond cutter, which always looks great. I was impressed the first time I saw it. I'm still impressed by it, but at this point I've seen it a handful of times. Springboard diamond cutter, 1, 2, 3. Penelope Ford picks up the win, and Blonde Ambition is no mas. On the same card, we had Jungle Boy taking on Tri-State legend Azriel. Another great opportunity to get some eyes on Jungle Boy. I've only seen a couple of his matches. I've never seen Azriel, so I was pretty pumped for this one as well. They hit Jungle Boy's music, and he's starting to get over. Like with a lot of these cats who are starting to get this mainstream exposure, he's getting over in a lot of different areas. And as soon as that his music hits, which is like reminiscent of Tarzan or shit. I wish I knew the name of the song. Hey Gabs, you in there? What's that song that goes like? It's like oh. What? It's not actually from Tarzan. Never mind. Well, okay. So as soon as his music hits, people will sing along. The whole audience sings along. It's a nice little communal moment for people who are excited about Jungle Boy. Similarly, as he's coming out, this is the first time I've seen this in his match. He gets all elite chants. People start chanting all elite as he's walking out. Very cool. He's Jungle Boy is now a part of a platform that's going to be way bigger than anything he's been a part of in his short career thus far. This is going to be a test. I think Azriel's like a 17-year veteran, so it's a good some good ring experience for Jungle Boy to pick up. They get going, the basics, obviously, lockups, arm bars. They start running the ropes, trading hip tosses. At a certain point, Azriel has Jungle Boy in the corner and puts him up in like the Tree of Woe. And instead of doing like a stomp to the abdomen or anything like that, he himself gets on the third rope, on the third turnbuckle, and stomps right on his balls. Azriel, probably we're not going to be seeing much of, I imagine. He's not the most sound technical wrestler. Some of his moves out there, including ball stomps on Jungle Boy. They get to picking the pace up though. They do trade some diamond cutters, trade 2 counts. Each of them can't finish each other off. Giggity. At a certain point, Azriel hits a hanging neck breaker on Jungle Boy. Pretty intense. That one looked like a pretty hard bump. Respect Tyler for taking that one. As they start to bring it home, they trade roll-ups. Eventually, Jungle Boy gets the best of Azriel. He gets him in a schoolboy roll-up. 1, 2, 3. The King of the Jungle. I don't know if he's the King of the Jungle. I don't want to put that pressure on him. Whatever, or the Prince of the Jungle. Jungle Boy picks up the win on veteran Azriel. Decent match. They try to get in some technical skills, some technical spots, some mat wrestling. I could have used a couple more high spots in it. Overall, the event was decent. Fine ass Riley Madison did make her debut in that, so that I got to check that out on pay-per-view live. That was nice. Scott Steiner was in the main event, and you know what? He could go a lot better than I expected him to be able to at this point in his career. And he didn't get in a fight with the fans, so that was a plus. Came pretty close a couple of points, but that was ICW's Party and Bullshit. The same night, across the pond, February 15th, at your calls, Rev Pro's High Stakes. I haven't talked about Revolution Pro Wrestling here on the pod yet. I don't really think we've had a reason to discuss it. There's since Pac obviously announcement though, and since now we're starting to get closer to May 25th. And I am trying to cover as many of the cats who will be showing up at Double or Nothing. I'm trying to cover as many of their matches as I can. What I did watch for the first time was my first Revolution Pro event. You can go check them out on Rev Pro on Demand. Same type of drill. I think you can sign up for a 7-day trial over there. I did that. So the event started. Cool set. Is obviously in like a hall, kind of similar to earlier Raws. If you've ever seen like Kevin Smith's like Q&A series where he goes over to the UK, or I don't know, or any type of like calls out there. I know that there was a a series where I think there was like a Rampage in the UK. WWE did a bunch of halls over there. So imagine that type of hall. But the Tron setup, the lighting, everything else pretty spectacular. The one gripe that I did have off the bat is the audio for the announcers was awful. Whoever patched this in, kudos to whoever mic'd the audience. I've talked about that's my main gripe in a lot of these live events is they don't have the audience mic'd. So you could hear the audience on the other hand, every line from the announcer just on top of the accent that I was already having a hard time trudging through. They all sound muffled, so it sounds like, "Oh, do we have Packers on the baby show?" And I was really just having a hard time trying to decipher what the fuck these Brits were talking about. But we had a couple matches to talk about. First off, it was our very own heel MJF, I believe, making his first trip across the pond to take on El Phantasmo. I've mentioned El Phantasmo before. He fought Frankie Kazarian at ECCW's Ballroom Brawl 11. I want to say like a month and some change ago. I didn't end up seeing that match, so this was my first time to get eyes on El Phantasmo. And I was excited for it. Right off the bat, when MJF came out, you could just kind of tell something was off. I don't know if it was the nerves. I don't know if it was the jet lag or all of it combined. But he just, something wasn't at 100%. That spark, the kind of the spark. You know, like when you cut a fucking wire, you know, you get like a loose cable. I'm not manly enough to know exactly what that means, but if you had an exposed wire, the spark that would be coming from that is usually what you feel when MJF is getting heat. He just didn't have it here, man. He just was not getting over with the Brits. He comes out, he cuts a promo, he's doing his usual beats, kind of like, you know, his whole I'm better than you and you know it. Like he's doing that whole bit, and it's just for whatever reason it's not getting over with this UK audience. At one point they're like chanting boring at him. It gets kind of hard to watch. He doesn't adjust with it either. I know we've talked about how young MJF is here. I think he's like 23, 24. This cat, this was a big test for him. This was nice to be able to see. Everywhere he's gone in the U.S., MJF has generated such heat, whether it's been Come Hell or High Water or any of the smaller ones that we've talked about him attending in the past. But this was just, he got over like a wet paper bag, man. There was just nothing. El Phantasmo comes out on the other hand, and as soon as his music hits, they are fucking ready. They are ready for El Phantasmo. Tall, lanky cat. He comes out, kind of swaggers out, and they can't wait for El Phantasmo to tear up that ring. They get going. MJF's going to his basic like ground and pound routine. He's got like that mat style, you know, not necessarily, somewhere in between like a brawler and a technician. It's not getting it done. It really feels like it's kind of lagging. On the other hand, once MJ or El Phantasmo gets his go to get his shit in, he lives up to his name, of El Phantasmo. He's like a fucking ninja out there. He's all over the ring. He could get almost anywhere in the ring. If you had to play Hot Lava against El Phantasmo, I don't know if there's anyone in the world. You put El Phantasmo and somebody else and any other wrestler in an arena or in York Hall, and you tell them the ground is lava. I don't think anybody could beat El Phantasmo. As far as like technical skills, he may not. If the old timers were to look at him, they probably wouldn't say he's the best wrestler. Like he's a hell of a acrobatic. Or an acrobat, but he's not necessarily the most sound technically. Conversely, once MJF starts to lock his shit in, it looks good. At first, he's going for some basic holds, some arm bars and stuff that aren't looking as tough. And as he realizes, this is the first time you see him adjust, kind of, which was nice, which was promising. His style's not getting over, and he goes for some more submissions towards the end, and he really finishes those motherfuckers. And he gets the holds on initially, and then you can tell he really tightens those up and makes El Phantasmo feel the pressure. In the end, MJF just couldn't keep up the pace, and El Phantasmo picks up the win. The audience obviously loved it, and I don't really know how soon we'll be seeing MJF travel back across the pond. Maybe in a couple years. There's obviously rumors we talked about last week that there may be a Royal Albert Hall show announced for All Elite Wrestling late come October or so, September, October. And hopefully MJF, if that is the case, hopefully he's picked up a couple tools. You know, he can take those back, and next time he he heads to head over that way, he will adjust accordingly. Aside from waiting for El Phantasmo to blow him nearly out of the fucking water first. In the main event, it was Rev Pro's Everweight champion and one of the hottest names out there on the wrestling scene, Will Ospreay, versus Dragon Gate Open champion, the bastard, the man who called out the Hangman, Pac. This is what everybody came to see, obviously. This is what sold out your call in record time. This is what all indie wrestling fans all over the world couldn't wait to find on bootleg or sign up for a free trial for. Will Ospreay comes out, and Ospreay is fucking king over there. They've taken that football chant. Like I'm not much into soccer, but the ole 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 ole, instead of just chanting it, they go Ospreay, Ospreay, Ospreay. This motherfucker is over. This is as over as a wrestler can get. I feel like he's huge over there. Pac strolls out and he's ripped, man. This motherfucker's torn up. His muscles have muscles. He's carrying that open weight champion, almost like dragging it behind him, almost like it's like Mjolnir, like a hammer. It's got a lot of weight to it. The way he carries it makes it feel that much more important or grandiose, I think, at least. They both get in the ring and they're really soaking it in. Like the audience it's obviously not as big as that Rock Hogan moment when they're facing off in the ring, but just to see these two teams facing off in the ring, people were really, really fucking going crazy before they've even thrown a blow, and they were really soaking it up. They knew how to take their time getting into it. Pretty good start. Nothing crazy to get going. Both of them showing how conditioned they are. At a certain point, Ospreay gets like kicked. I think he gets kicked, or I don't remember if it's a kick or a forearm to the mouth, and he gets busted open. That added a cool dynamic to it. I thought it humanized Will Ospreay, who can go out there and do these fucking crazy things. As we get closer to them wrapping it up, both of these guys are hitting moves that I've never seen before. I'm just talking about like kind of front flip pile drivers, like corkscrews, things that I don't even understand. I'm sure that if you did this 5 to 10 years ago, it wouldn't get over at all. It wouldn't get a reaction. They're hitting moves that people would have not been able to comprehend. At a certain point, Chris Brooks and Jonathan Gresham do a run-in when the referee's down. These cats had a match early in the evening against Aussie Open, so they come down to try and fuck some shit up. Obviously, it doesn't really work. Aussie Open comes in, takes care of that. I didn't feel like to me, it was a nice moment to have the two working together. Obviously, you have Pac and Ospreay who kind of take their attention from away from each other and kind of both focus on CCK, I think they're called, on Gresham and Brooks. They also do have a nice moment where like they look at each other before they both hop over the ropes, do like something like a springboard suicide dive to take out Gresham and Brooks. Nice, in a movie where it's like Batman v Superman, you always want a moment where like they acknowledge that they're like, I guess we have to work together for a fucking second. I could have gone without it though. It was a nice moment for Rev Pro fans. They get back to it. Ospreay hits a shooting star press on Pac. Pac's able to kick out. Ospreay then goes for a fucking Styles clash, and Pac kicks out again. In the final minute though, I should have mentioned there was a 30-minute bout, 30-minute time limit. They announced the final minutes counting down, and it becomes evident that Pac is in danger of losing this match. Ospreay goes for a Stormbreaker, and Pac goes for the low blow in front of the referee. And in the audience, you can almost feel like the gasp in the arena where everyone's like, oh, we've seen this knockdown fucking match between two of the world's best, Pac and Will Ospreay. And in the last minute, he was willing to throw it all away. Pac hits that low blow, but surprisingly, the ref lets it continue, man. So Ospreay's down. He's just took that hard low blow. Pac kind of like crawls up to the third turnbuckle, and we count down from 10, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's a draw, and you know what? I expected boos, but almost immediately as the bell rang, the audience started clapping. Like they started appreciating what they just saw. It was a cool angle. It was a way for both of the guys, to get over, to get their shit in, and nobody came out looking like Pac lost to Will Ospreay. Will Ospreay lost to Pac. The low blow makes it kind of seem like he lost, but at the same time, it's very infitting. It's like in keeping with the bastard and who he is. He does what he's got to do when he has to do it, and that's what sets him apart. But overall, I thought it was it was a good match. It could have been better. I'd preferred it without the run-in. But I did dig that they left it open because I can't wait to see another rematch. Obviously, I'm not alone in that. As Pac starts to walk out, the crowd is chanting 5 more minutes. Even Ospreay, who's in pain, obviously, is like holding up his hand for 5 more minutes. And Pac saunters off with that belt behind him, the Dragon Gate Open champion, basically saying, fuck you, I'm done. Like, that's that. Game over. And that was Rev Pro High Stakes. Overall decent. MJF had a tough go of things, as they'd say. But great match for Pac. The next night, Saturday, February 16th, in Atlantic City, New Jersey. It was GCW's. They said it couldn't be done. This one was available on the Fight TV app for pay-per-view. If you don't already have the Fight TV app, you've never used it, download that son of a bitch. Go to redeem code. Use my code Q06P05J. Look how easy I made that for you to remember. Q06P05J. Redeem my code. We'll both get $10. Let's help each other watch some motherfucking wrestling. The event starts. Like I said, Joey Janela again popping up. He's like the Carmen Sandiego of indie wrestling. Joey Janela is on the indie commentary team. This time he's joined by Drew Cordero. This is a show, and I think this is their first pay-per-view since GCW's 400 Degrees, which I covered here in the past. It was held in, I think it's called the Showboat, but it was basically a shut down casino in Atlantic City. I don't know how rundown Atlantic City currently is, but this was kind of punk rock. It felt dangerous almost. It felt seedy, like a seedy atmosphere. They were saying it was the best environment or the best venue that a GCW or deathmatch has ever been in, which is probably true, but still, to comparatively, kind of seedy. I think the third or fourth match of the night was this crazy ass triple threat death match. Jimmy Lloyd, whose birthday it was, versus Marcus Crane and Eric Ryan. Jimmy Lloyd, they say that it's Jimmy Lloyd's 21st birthday. I've seen Jimmy Lloyd one time before, or I think I've seen him a couple times. He's known for his hardcore style, but they said it was his 21st birthday, and I was like, it's his fucking 21st birthday. Jimmy Lloyd looks like a grown ass man. He's been living hard, obviously. Jimmy Lloyd has putting the miles on the tank there. He comes out, walking to the ring, smoking his spliff, doesn't give a fuck. He hands it to an audience member who I think I've now become Instagram friends with, that audience member who smoked that J. Look at that. What a beautiful world we live in as wrestling fans. They did some crazy ass shit in this match. There was fluorescent tubes. There was saws. There were, at a certain point, I think Jimmy Lloyd put somebody, he power slammed Marcus Crane through this like sheet of glass that had or soda cans that were cut in half, on top of Eric Ryan. I think it cut his arm up pretty bad, because as soon as that match ended, he ran to the back, and he was quickly followed by a bunch of paramedics. But Jimmy Lloyd's in the ring after winning said death match, and he gets on the mic and says, "Joey Janela, get the fuck out here." Joey chants start. Joey Janela music hits, and he struts out. He kind of does this bit where like he gets in the ring and like looks amazed at the debris. He's like, he does like a double take of like, what the fuck happened here? Jimmy Lloyd catches in the brass ring. He says it means that he gets to choose his opponent for spring break. He says he wants to wrestle one of the best death match wrestlers in the world, and he picks Masahi Takada as his opponent. Joey Janela says, for the first time ever, we're going to have a fucking death match at spring break. Boom. It's made official. Takada versus Jimmy Lloyd. Spring break 3. Joey Janela. It's already sold out, so we can't get in, but for everybody who's going to get to catch it on pay-per-view like myself, that's a hell of a match to look forward to. At intermission, they announced that GCW is going to Japan. That's pretty big. I haven't been a follower of GCW for that long, but obviously they're starting to grow at a pretty exponential rate, and they're starting to take it international for the first time ever, I believe. The first match post intermission was a 6-man scramble. This one had Teddy Hart versus AJ Gray versus Facade versus Grim Reaper versus Orange Cassidy versus our own Jungle Boy. So it's another Jungle Boy match that we had for this past week. Teddy Hart walks out. I just started to become familiar with Teddy Hart and his whole story and what a character he is. He walks out to Lose Yourself by Eminem, shining from head to toe. He looks like if Liberace were a thug. That's what that's Teddy Hart. He's got he's got that 50 Cent looking diamond cross. And he's holding his cat Velvet, who at this point looks old and sedated and like it doesn't want to be there. Jungle Boy comes out. He's getting a pretty decent pop with the audience. Obviously, most people sing along. It's pretty catchy. He's like, oh, like I talked about. Jungle Boy is a pretty cool character. That's what I saw. He seemed a little intimidated in this one as he was coming out. But at the same time, I love the way he carries himself. Just the body language, the mannerisms. I think Jungle Boy has a good potential to get over with fans. There's a lot of places you can go with that character, I think. I was not necessarily looking forward to this match. A 6-man scramble, that just sounds like a messy situation to me. It just sounds like a potential for a bad match. But at this point I was in. We get going. Teddy Hart and Orange Cassidy get the ring. They kind of start to admire each other. Like they do a thing of like, all right, this fucking guy's cool. Like they trade glasses. They trade the cross. And Teddy Hart brings in his cat because he thinks Orange Cassidy wants to pet the cat. And Orange Cassidy basically goes like, no, like I want to punch the cat. That was a nice little bit. But that cat must have understood because at this point Teddy Hart goes to like put Velvet the cat on Orange Cassidy's shoulders, and the cat freaks out. It looks like it just came to life again. It looked like someone reanimated that cat as soon as he touched Orange Cassidy's shoulders. He freaks out. He jumps through the second rope, tears off, and leaving the audience to the whole. You see a big majority of the audience get to their feet. Everyone's scrambling to find the cat. Teddy Hart and Orange Cassidy go for a second, but then he kind of finds his way out. Jungle Boy and Orange Cassidy get in the ring. Orange Cassidy's doing. If you've never seen Orange Cassidy, he's got a kind of interesting gimmick. He's like this way too cool for school. He kind of has like if you've ever seen Grind, that shitty skateboarding movie, the Cool Luke or the Cool Lou, or shit, what's his name? Fucking Sweet Lou. Sweet Lou. He's basically the millennial version of Sweet Lou. He's just he just kind of floats, man. He does this bit where like he always puts his hands in his pocket. He's too cool to take his hands out of his pocket. So Jungle Boy's trying to pull him out continuously. It's okay. It's a little bit of comedy in there. They start to run the ropes. But Orange Cassidy, I became impressed with him more than just his comedy bit because he commits to it, man. He's running those ropes. He takes a pile driver backbreaker. He gets a drop kick. He takes a code breaker, and all of this while his hands are still in his fucking pockets. When you get everybody involved again, they do one of those classic, like everybody gets to go off the top rope onto the pile of the rest of the fucking 6 dudes. Jungle Boy hits this crazy ass. Jungle Boy impressed me with this. I don't like these kind of moments where everybody's expecting it, like, all right, now you go. But Jungle Boy hits this crazy ass move. He basically is on the top rope, and then if you ever recall as a child, like those bars that are parallel to each other, you kind of do like, I don't know if they're used for gymnastics or shit, but like you kind of push yourself up on each side of it, and you kind of swing your legs, and your upper body's holding you off, and you can kind of swing your feet. He kind of does a motion similar to that where he swings his feet back and does a 450. That was pretty cool. AJ Gray does a corkscrew, and Teddy Hart, the audience is just chanting for Teddy Hart to get up there. I wasn't quite sure why, but he does one of the most perfect moonsaults I've ever seen. And this is not prime Teddy Hart. This is not Teddy Hart at his best, but still, it's a pretty close to perfect fucking moonsault. It looks beautiful. Teddy Hart hits that moonsault like MJ hit a dunk. I'm basically just it just looks like it should look, I think. They do another bit where everyone's involved. So Teddy Hart and AJ Gray triple power bomb Grim Reaper, Jungle Boy, and Facade. They do one of those where it's like two men, triple power bomb, 3 men off the top rope. It was cool, but all that kind of shit reminds me once in a while. I feel like it's like synchronized swimmers. It's like I don't really want that. I'd prefer it to look more like a fight. There's moments for synchronized bits. I guess you got to do some cool shit in here in the 6-man tag match, but I didn't feel like the stakes. I didn't feel like there were stakes at all. And this all kind of got lost to me when you're just running around doing the moves. That's what like a lot of the old cats complain about when they're like, oh, these kids are just doing flips and shit, and there's no psychology to it. This was one of those examples. I know that it was kind of a throwaway match because it was a 6-man scramble, but at the same time, I would have liked a little psychology to it, or at least felt like somebody in there gave a fuck about fighting somebody else. Jungle Boy goes for a handspring cutter, just like Penelope Ford would, but he gets overpowered by Grim Reaper and Facade. In the end, Teddy Hart hits his Canadian Destroyer on Orange Cassidy, Surfing USA on Facade, and some kind of crazy ass fucking front flip into a powerbomb on AJ Gray, and he picks up the win in the 6-man scramble. And as soon as the bell rings, Joey Janela announces on commentary, Teddy's Hart's cat is safe and is fine. The audience can't hear it, but I'm sure at this point we were ready to just move on. The rest of the pay-per-view was fucking brutal. If you've never seen Game Changer Wrestling, I would advise looking up a couple clips of it on YouTube before you buy this on Fight TV. If you are, like, one more reminder, if you are going to buy this on Fight TV and you've never used Fight TV, go to redeem code, put in my code Q06P05J. Boom. The main event of this one was Alex Colon versus Jun Kasai, arguably the best deathmatch wrestler of all time, making his North American return. He ended up picking up the win in what was just fucking a crazy match. I can't iterate how brutal that match was. Afterwards, all of the GCW, the deathmatch wrestlers, basically come out. Nick Cage comes out, Marcus Crane, Eric Ryan, and they face off with Jun Kasai in what felt like it was a really, really awesome moment. It felt like how I felt as a kid when WCW Will Invasion Angle happened, and you had people facing off with each other, and Jun Kasai is across from the GCW crew, and he goes, "Oh, you GCW, you want to come Japan? Fuck you," like basically something like that. Basically like building him up and being like, "Fuck you, come get me." And then he walks out a bloody mess, and the GCW crowd is left chanting on the GCW crew for their impending Japanese invasion. Really good pay-per-view. So thus far, this is my favorite pay-per-view or my favorite event of the week. I'd really recommend GCW's. They said it couldn't be done. I've told you it was going to happen last week. It did happen. I missed it. I've got shit going on. I'm trying to keep up. But 2 nights ago, Wednesday, February 20th, at the Bootleg Theater in Los Angeles, it was night 1 of Bar Wrestling's Threes Company Trios Tournament. 12 teams, 2 nights. First of all, that evening, we had High Risk Wrestling, the team of Brandon Cutler, who we just learned, who keep that name in the back of your mind. We'll revisit, we'll circle back around there. Brandon Cutler, Eli Everfly, and Delilah Doom pick up the win over Land of the Lost, Team Luchasaurus, Solo Darling, and Jungle Boy. They put up a good fight, but at the end, Brandon Cutler puts down a flying elbow on Luchasaurus, eliminating Jungle Boy from the Threes Company Trios Tournament. Also that night, SCU took on Two Butchers and The Blade, the team of Andy Williams, Tyler Bateman, and Pepper Parks. I hear it was a good match. I was able to find these on SoCalUncensored.com, the results, so shouts to them. Christopher Daniels in the end hits the best moonsault ever on Bateman. SCU tomorrow. SCU moves on to the finals. Last night, Thursday, February 21st, at American Legion in Baldwin Park, which is basically Los Angeles. It was the conclusion of Threes Company Trios Tournament. SCU took on the Real Deals, the team of D'Lo Brown, Andy Brown, and Willie Mack. D'Lo Brown's a name that I haven't heard in a long time, going back to the Nation of Domination days. And you know what? I always wondered, what happened to D'Lo Brown? So that was pretty cool. I'm excited to check this out once this match hits the web. According to SoCalUncensored.com, though, in the end, via chokeslam and backbreaker combo and Andy Brown, SCU picks up the win. Moving on to the finals of the Threes Company tournament. In that final match, SCU had to take on 2 teams in a triple threat team match. Team Hard Eyes Emoji, which was Ray Rosas, and Jake Atlas, and Heather Monroe. Also having to compete against the Carnies, Nick Iggy, Carrie Awful, and Trip Cassidy. Somehow, SCU takes on 6 people, and at the end of the evening, hit the best Meltzer ever on Carrie Awful, and the best city ever. SCU becomes the inaugural Three's Company Trios Tournament winners, or champions, whatever you want to call it. I don't know if they're technically champions, but SCU brings it home. A great way to lead into the rest of the year for SCU and All Elite Wrestling. Those are the matches for this week. Moving it right along to the Being the Elite segment. Last week we had 3 things to bring to you. This week we're back to 2, which, I got to view it glass half full. A couple weeks ago we were just getting the 1, the Being the Elite weekly. Now we've got 2 weekly shows that are going up along on the YouTube channels right now. First of all, this week we got episode 139 of Being the Elite on February 18th on Monday. It was called Show Me the Meaning of Being Elite. Starts off with a little backstage bit from Come Hell or High Water, Cody and the Bucks. I forgot what the joke was, but basically they get the Yeti, the infamous indie wrestler, the Yeti, to join in to laugh along with it. It was a nice little way to start the episode. After that, you got Cody and MJF bit. That was probably one of my favorite bits. Again, I'm loving the Cody and MJF dynamic. I think it's great. Cody comes out with like a steak for MJF, and he's like, bison medium steak for a growing boy. Fucking hilarious, man. So good. I think he's gonna salt the steak, and he's like, salt for salt of the earth. MJF goes on to like call, he gets in Pharaoh's face, he's like, oh, you're a fucking idiot. Like, he's yelling at the dog. Really funny bit. I love this. Please keep this going. We then get footage of Hangman from the ticket announcement party. They show the Pac promo, which is awesome. I talked about that last week. We then move on to backstage at that same party, right before Kenny Omega walks out. I don't know if it was Nick or Matt who shot the footage, but what a moment. What a cool moment to capture right before the North American return of Kenny Omega and the announcement to him signing to All Elite Wrestling. He's backstage waiting to walk out in front of that crowd, and you can see the nerves are hitting, man. He's like, I think he even says it. He's like, wow. He's like, oh, it makes me a little nervous here. Like, I'm starting to get some nerves going, and you can see it. Like, he's not freaking out, but he is definitely soaking in that energy, and it was fucking awesome to see. I love that they show these. First of all, we've talked about it here. I'm really excited for the product, and I know how professional it's going to look. Hearing everybody talk about it, hearing particularly Tony Khan talk about it and what he wants it to look like and how much money they want it to seem like for the production aspect. The behind-the-scenes shit is really what grew the audience for the Bucks and the Elite, and they know it. They show this moment, and they kind of show, like, just to give scale, they turn the phone to show like they're in between the MGM Grand and that pool and like what's basically their makeshift gorilla position for the party. And I mean they've taken it so far, even in these grand scale announcement parties or things like that. I love that they show us what it looks like from their aspect and what they're seeing. And then get into another like little skit. It's Cody, Kenny, and the Bucks. And Kenny's inquiring about his first match, and the Bucks, I love that they're keeping the EVP bit going too. That's great. He's like, tell him EVP, Cody, basically kind of like passing the buck. They then put up the poster for Double or Nothing, and this was their announcement that it's officially sold out. We've obviously heard it, and they've talked about it on their Twitters and their various social medias. But this is the first time in the platform of Being the Elite or Road to Double or Nothing or anything official like that we've seen the announcement of it being sold out. Kenny asks, okay, cool, where's the next one? And they're definitely playing coy, like, where's more shows in, pending dates? We've got more coming. Kenny basically, they're doing a bit of like, Kenny's kind of calling them on their shit, where he's having this moment of like, oh shit, like I'm not, oh fuck, you don't know what you're doing. Until you show me a wrestling card, like AEW's a t-shirt company. They're playing this whole bit up of like, maybe he might not sign. He's like, I'm not gonna sign this, And then you're like, whoa, like they're Kenny Omega might have done this all for naught. And then obviously he ties it back around. He's like, I was just kidding. I don't want to be over dramatic or anything. I'll just sign. We then move on to another Joey Janela moment. And unlike, it seems like it starts off like it's going to be like the rest of the Joey Janela bits. He's in a locker room. which we shortly find out to be the Party and Bullshit locker room. And he's got the thigh patches on, and it seems like he's gonna do the fireball bit again. And as he's gonna go to do the fireball bit, Penelope Ford comes on screen, and she starts to berate him. She's like, "Your fireball addiction has ruined our relationship. I'm leaving you." And she's like, "This is my new man." And Big Papa Pump, Scott Steiner, walks into the frame, and Penelope Ford then goes on to leave Joey Janela for Scott Steiner. Fucking hilarious, so cool. And she pops right before it ends. She pops back into the frame, and she goes, just FYI, this bit sucks," which I've been kind of saying in a very polite way for the past few weeks. So I'm glad they acknowledged it. This was the best one so far. This was so fucking funny. The idea of or the image of Penelope Ford leaving Joey Janela for fucking Scott Steiner. They do another bit where Joey Ryan's backstage at some wrestling show, and wrestlers are inquiring about Cody and the Bucks, and to try and summon Cody and the Bucks, they start to beat the shit out of Joey Ryan, which I think is awesome. Now it's like an ongoing bit of like, if someone wants to summon Cody and the Bucks, they try to beat the shit out of Joey Ryan, hoping that he'll come save the day. And luckily, out of nowhere, Scorpio Sky shows up to save the day. No Cody and the Bucks, but Scorpio Sky. And once he realizes it's Joey Ryan, he's kind of like, "Come on, man, like get your shit together." We get back to Kenny and the Bucks. First of all, let me say that it feels good to be able to say that again. We cut back to Kenny and the Bucks. I know we talked about it last week, but man, it's so great and so exciting to have Kenny Omega, over here now in the States, and it just feels right. So it's Kenny and the Bucks. They're in a hotel in Vegas. Kenny proposes crashing a show. He's like, "We're here in Vegas." He's like, "I've got a show for us to crash." He's like, "I loved what you guys were doing, crashing all those indie shows." And the Bucks are kind of surprised. They're like, "Whoa, I don't." As they're walking off screen and shit, it's all these moments. It's all these like offhanded remarks that are the ones that really hit. They're walking off screen, and one of them goes like, "I didn't think you'd be into this." And Kenny's like, "Oh yeah." He's like, you don't even see him talking about it. Like, you see him walking off. He's like, "Yeah, I love crashing small scale indie shows." I just thought that was a great line to end that on. We then get Christopher Daniels, who finally is getting his tooth fixed. Shouts to Christopher Daniels CD. Congratulations. You wrote it out. Mazel tov on your new teeth. But they do a bit with that. They have some fun with it where he comes back, and in the reveal he's wearing like a fake grill. It's like a two-piece. It's like gold covering like two of his teeth. And Frankie Kazarian and Scorpio Sky and Cody are giving him shit about it. They're like, "What the fuck?" It was pretty funny. Frankie Kazarian gets in his face and he's like, "We have a dentist on the roster. Why didn't you go see her, you dumb motherfucker?" Man, this is probably the last time we're gonna get this to be able to use the CD tooth bit. So they got what was left out of it. Cody comes in, he's kind of like, "What's going on?" And Scorpio Sky is like, "Cody, man, we're all getting grills." And they end it right on that line. As soon as he says that, you're like, "Wow, what another great line to end the fucking scene on." But we then cut back to Kenny and the Bucks. They're like in their AEW gear. They're trying to play it incognito with their hoods up. They're ready to crash whatever show it is that Kenny's proposed for them to crash. He hasn't told them yet. Then they cut to the three of them wearing Backstreet Boys shirts in the audience at Backstreet Boys Vegas show. So fucking awesome. I'm gonna be honest with you. I took my mom to that show last year for her birthday, and I had a hell of a fucking time myself. I think that was the first concert that her and I went to. She took me when I was in the second grade or third grade, so it was nice to be able to go back. We did it again. This time I was drunk than I was in the second grade, but they had a good time too. I thought it was a nice little way to cap the episode off. Obviously, we do like a quick tease before the credits hit. Nick and Matt are messaging back and forth. Nick asks Matt how his neck is. They show the footage of Pentagon Jr. pile driving him on the stage from the Double or Nothing ticket announcement party. And Nick basically sends a message that says, like, check your email. Or sorry, Matt sends a message, check your email. I just sent you a flight. Which, leads me questioning, where are they going to show up? We may speculate about it here in a couple minutes when I get to your opportunities to catch AEW cats this week. But to be honest with you, I don't really know. I don't know where they're gonna show up. They're teasing that they're gonna pop in on a Lucha Brothers upcoming event, but who knows? That was it for Being the Elite this week. We then moved on to episode 4 of Road to Double or Nothing. It was dropped just a couple days ago, Wednesday, February 20th. We start off with Cody post-surgery. Obviously, he's rocking the crutch and the brace. He addresses the 11,600 people sellout in 4 minutes for Double or Nothing. He then goes on to say that there was another 34,000 in a digital queue waiting to buy tickets. So obviously the realization is that they're going to need bigger venues for All Elite Wrestling as we get forward. He plugs StarCast. He then goes on to say that last year for All In, with StarCast being there and so many people being in town for StarCast, they put together the over the budget Battle Royal, and he says that this year the over the budget Battle Royal will be back, and he teases a great incentive for the winner. He says he's not going to say what it is yet, but he goes on to talk about why it's so important to him. He says it's a great opportunity to take someone who hasn't gotten opportunities yet or who has been denied a platform. And then we cut to Sonny Kiss, who we've talked about here last week a couple times. We talked about him when he fought Penelope Ford at A Matter of High Wrestling, and I talked about him last week when it was announced that he would at the party that he would be at Double or Nothing. They show a shot of him backstage from that party, and he's talking to Cody and Tony, and they show him kind of getting emotional, and that was really nice to see too. That was kind of cool to see. What a big moment! I mean, that's got to be blown up on a scale that's an exponential growth scale when you do something like that from the type of spotlights that Sonny Kiss has been getting so far in his career. He then goes on to also introduce Kip Sabian, who here we go, first sidebar. We had somebody else to introduce this week, Kip Sabian. I had to look up into who Kip Sabian was. First sidebar, Kip Sabian debuted in 2009. He's from Norfolk, England. He's been World of Sports Tag Team Champ. He's been the WAW Tag Champ, the U23 and Openweight Champ, as well as the IPW UK Champ. Wow, this cat's got a lot going on. To do a quick interview with him, he basically talks about the transition to going full-time with wrestling and basically being all in as a professional wrestler. They then also introduced Brandon Cutler. Brandon Cutler started out wrestling with the Bucks, he says, in backyards. He's from Huntington Beach, California. He debuted in 2011. He then goes on to talk about how he started a family and he stepped away from wrestling for 7 years. He talks about how his wife was making gear for wrestlers around the time of All In, and he was trying them on, and he was getting the itch to get back into it. And as of January 2018, he got back into wrestling. Since then, he's been the WCCW Wildcard Champion, the NWA Arizona Heavyweight Champion, the EWF American Heavyweight Champ. And obviously, they're gonna be giving a push to this guy. He's a friend of theirs, but he's also fucking working really, really hard. This cat looks like $1 million, and in this short amount of time, he's already racked up a name for himself. So expect both of those cats, Kip Sabian and Brandon Cutler, to be in the over-budget Battle Royal. I imagine in the weeks going forward, we'll get more announcements of cats who will be in this as well, but these are our first two. Lastly, we have Cody and Michael Cellular, the AEW coordinator, sitting in there watching Jericho's promo on YouTube about the sellout of Double or Nothing and how he says, he did it. Cody's kind of getting pissed off about it. Michael Cellular, again, is eating that fucking apple like he was when they teased who Cody's partner would be for the first time. At first, I wasn't buying into it, and there was a lot of speculation, and people were saying, oh, it's an apple, it must be Carlito. But Carlito is a clone. He's a second or third, he is a second-generation wrestler. And his fucking thing was the apples. They keep teasing the apples. I think I wasn't buying into it, but now I'm leaning towards it. Might be, I expect possibly Carlito to show up with Double or Nothing to fight Dusty Rhodes, the Cologne Legacy versus the Rhodes Legacy. I'd be up for it. Maybe not. Maybe I'm just reading this too much like a lot of the internet is. But as of right now, that's what I'm thinking. That was it for Being the Elite segment this week. Being the Elite 139 and Road to Double or Nothing 4. I enjoyed both a lot. I thought this week was a lot better than last week as far as the delineation between what the two shows are. The feeling of Being the Elite really feels more like a sketch or a full of skits. There's a little bit more reality in the Road to Double or Nothing, and I thought it really felt like it this week. Road to Double or Nothing kind of felt like a 24/7 or one of those like building up to a fight matches, or building up to a fight shows on like HBO or Showtime. I really dig that feel, and I think as we get closer, that's what that needs to feel like, and not cross over too much into the being the elite. As far as AEW news this week, not much, not a whole lot. Over on sportingnews.com, there was an interview with the Young Bucks called The Young Bucks on their vision for AEW and being unafraid of the future. I didn't really get much in there. There's some, it kind of retreads a lot of stuff that we already know. Just 1 or 2 points that I did pick out was them talking about, this is the only point that I picked out, them talking about storytelling. They said, we really want to do slow burn, long-term storytelling. Nick Jackson's when they're questioned about how long the shows would be, or saying the reporters kind of leaning into them, trying to bait them to say that Raw's 3 hours is too long, and Nick Jackson confirms, he gets what he says. He says definitely not 3 hours. That's for sure. I feel like 3 hours is too long. Not a whole lot of important information in there, but it's a nice little piece. I'd check that out if you're interested. Also, something that popped up online this week. I don't cover things with people usually who aren't all elite wrestlers, but Kenny Omega's former tag team partner and someone who a lot of people were hoping to come over to AEW, and one of the best wrestlers in the world, is Kota Ibushi. There's been speculation that they were going to reform the Golden Lovers here in AEW. A lot of people put the cart before the horse with that. But Kota Ibushi online had a interview this week. You can find it a bunch of places picked it up. In this article, though, he is asked pretty much point blank about AEW and what the deal is, where he lays with them. He says, quote, "They said they just want me in their ring in some form. The idea was for me to move over to America and be there full time. I turned them down just after Wrestle Kingdom. If I went, it would be the end of my career. There wouldn't be anywhere else to go after that. No step up, nothing left to do. That would be the last step to make. And after that, things would just go down. Great money, but I want to keep developing." He says, Kenny wants to change the world with wrestling. I think to change the world with wrestling, New Japan is the best place to do that. That's where he is. That's where he and I differ. I can do all that here. I'm all the places I've been. New Japan is the highest level. He's basically saying he wants to end his career in New Japan. He says, this is the last decision I will make in my career. I'll end my wrestling career in New Japan Pro Wrestling. That was a tough blow for a lot of wrestling fans all over. New Japan Pro Wrestling fans probably rejoiced, but also it's got to be a tad bit bittersweet for them, unless Kenny Omega goes back over to New Japan someday, which I'm sure he will at some point. I'm not sure now, actually. Hold on, let me take that back. Which he may. I'd say it's more likely that he may at some point. The Golden Lovers may have seen their time, and at least I thought it was interesting to pick it up here to talk about that Kota Ibushi talking so frankly about turning down. He says he turned down the offer, so as of now, we will not be getting Kota Ibushi in All Elite Wrestling. Moving it right along, these are your opportunities to catch AEW Cats in action for the week of February 22nd through possibly the 29th, as these things have been going. It's been a long couple weeks, and it's been kind of hard to keep a regular schedule here, but next week looks to be the same. Starting off tonight, as when I release this will have already happened, but tonight, February 22nd, on Pursuit Channel and Twitch, Impact is promoting Lucha Bros versus LAX. They're calling it the final chapter. It's for the Impact World Tag titles. At Homecoming, LAX picked up the win. In Mexico, Lucha Bros picked up the win. This is for all the marbles. This is for the titles. I'm very excited for this match. Also tonight, in Fort Worth, Texas, Martinez Entertainment's Love and Hate. And unlike that, the Impact one is pre-taped. This one is live. It is Love and Hate in the main event. Lucha Bros versus Rush and Dragon Lee. Dynastia Munoz. That one I don't know really where to check it out yet, but I'll be at least giving you the results for that one next week. Saturday, February 23rd, Chicago, Illinois, Logan Square Auditorium. It's AAW's The Art of War, and this motherfucker is sold out. We've got 3 matches to talk about on this one, but it's sold out. So just like me, you'll have to catch this one post event unless you've already got tickets to this. First off, we got Sammy Guevara versus Darby Allin. The two have met 3 times, and Darby Allin has got the best of the 3 so far. He's won 2 out of those 3 exchanges. Sammy Guevara is hoping to even things up. Kylie Ray is taking on Impact's Su Yung for the AAW Women's Championship. These two have met twice. Kylie Ray has won both times. Su Yung is looking to end that winning streak of Kylie Ray. Last but not least, in the main event, it's a triple threat tag match for the AAW Tag Team Championship. In their first title defense, Lucha Bros are facing former tag champs AR Fox and former Impact champs LAX. Ray Phoenix, who took his that bad bump at Lucha City Limits a couple weeks ago, is back in action for this one. But the Lucha Bros have two rivals in this match. They're outgunned. They've taken belts from both LAX and AR Fox recently, so I'm not expecting them to pull out a win. I'm expecting them to take some serious heat in this match. Also tomorrow, Saturday, February 23rd, in Joppa, Maryland, MCW Arena, 2019 anniversary. MCW's 2019 anniversary. In the main event, it's the Saviors, John Skyler and Eric Martin versus none other than SCU, Frankie Kazarian and Christopher Daniels. Hopefully Scorpio Sky run in or something, or some type of presence on this card as well. But if not, at least you got Frankie Kazarian and Christopher Daniels. Sunday, February 24th, Glasgow, UK. I don't know exactly where that is, but Glasgow, UK. If you're near these, you know where that is. It's ICW's Square Go Over the Top. This is Insane Championship Wrestling, not to be confused with Party and Bullshit ICW Independent Championship Wrestling. The main event for this one is set to be basically like a Royal Rumble. It's 30 entrants, 5 weapons. But Jimmy Havoc is set to be taking part in this one. I don't know. I'm sure you can catch this one on demand. If you can, go look for that. I'll definitely be giving you the results of that this week. But if you're out there, boom, go check that out. Last but not least, Thursday, February 28th, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, at the Rex Theater. It's Wrestle Rex. The main event is the Lucha Bros versus Sam Adonis and DJZ. Lucha Bros going out there representing, the La Raza all over, so many nights a week, and really putting shit on the line, and really going out there and proving that they're working champs, fighting champs. That's going to do it for your matches for where to catch All Elite Weekly catch, or our Elite Wrestling catches for the last week of February. All right, guys, we're bringing it in for a landing. It may seem or it may sound as if I'm actually bringing it in for a landing. I had to take this last part on the road. I'm headed home from Moreno Valley back to Riverside, California. It is 36 degrees outside. It fucking sucks. But the last thing I had to leave you guys with this week is your version or your edition of All Elite way back. This week's match I wanted to leave you guys with was kind of a parallel to, or a bookend for, the High Stakes Rev Pro event that happened this past week. This week's match is Teddy Hart versus Pac or Neville. You can find this one on YouTube. It's like 18 minutes long. It's from 2006. It's one PW Fight Club 2. And these cats, it's 13 years ago. These cats are young and, I mean, fucking hungry as hell. I mean, literally, they both weigh like 165, 175 pounds soaking wet. These cats are out there proving, that they're going to be around for a long time, and obviously they both stood the test of time on different scales and in different ways, but both of these cats are hitting some of their signature moves from an early age. The moonsault, obviously, for Teddy Hart, certain things like with the pile driver spinning or the press from Pac. Obviously, they showed a lot of promise from early on, and that's the last thing I wanted to leave you guys with this week. So that's your pick for this week's edition of All Elite way back. Teddy Hart versus Pac, 2006. It's on YouTube. It's only like 4,000 views on YouTube, or at least the version I saw on YouTube does. That's been it this week, guys. We talked about this week's matches for All Elite wrestlers, all that they had for the week of February, I believe 13th through the 22nd. It was a long week between, a long sketch or a long little stretch between episodes. We talked about Being the Elite episode 139. We talked about Road to Double or Nothing episode 4. We talked a little bit about news. There wasn't much. I then told you guys about your opportunities to see All Elite wrestlers in action for the week of February 22nd through the 29th. And lastly, I just gave you your All Elite way back, Pac versus Teddy Hart. Guys, if you stuck around this long, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Once again, por favor, hit me up on Instagram. I'm at All Elite Weekly. Once again, I'll just put one last plea out there. I'm looking for a logo. If you've got any talents in that kind of sort of thing, por favor, hit me up, and hopefully we can work something out. Thank you so much, guys. I'm your host. I'm Matt Cruz. Go be elite.